bring in Washington Congressman Adam Smith, ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee. War in Ukraine has been going on for years and years, and we continue to support it. Why wouldn't we support the war, not even a war, but a blockade of Iran for another 2 to 4 months to bring them to their economic knees?
Two big differences. First of all, we didn't start the war in Ukraine. You act as if we had a choice at some point that we could have woke up and said, nah, we're out. We're going to end the war. Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine fought back. So massive difference there.
But we're at this place that either way, we're here right now, right?
Understood, but facts do matter. And, we had Trump saying he stopped 8 wars, which is a complete lie. He hasn't stopped 8 wars. He certainly started a few. So facts matter. And President Trump just throwing facts out there that aren't actually facts do deserve to be contradicted. And the other part about this is there's no guarantee at the end of 3 to 4 months that the outcome that you described is going to happen. Now, this is an estimate as to how long Iran can hold out. Keep in mind, the problem with Iran is they don't really care about their people, all right? We saw that in the war against Iraq. 8 years, they kept going, kept going. Finally, Iraq quit. So there is no guarantee whatsoever that they're going to give up after 3 or 4 months. Now, if you're acting like absolutely this is going to happen, then that is naive. That doesn't reflect what's going on. And then the rest of the world is impacted by this as well. Yes, our economy is taking a hit right now, but the rest of the world, Asia in particular, Africa, Latin America, are taking an even bigger hit.
Right.
Meanwhile, Trump is alienating all of them, and a lot of them are now leaning more towards Iran than they were at the start of this, which will help Iran survive.
Congressman, you want to say facts matter. I'm not going to litigate the Trump stuff, but the rest of the world, at least the Middle East, is leaning more and more towards the United States. It was Syria that once was Iran's biggest ally that said that Iran needed to knock it off. It is the United Arab Emirates that's now left OPEC and has allied itself with Israel.
I'm talking about the economic reality that the rest of the world is facing. So the question is, look, and Leland, I don't disagree with the way you laid this out. Trump's bet is that, well, the bombing campaign didn't work, basically. 4 to 6 weeks of a bombing campaign didn't have the impact that Trump hoped it would on Iran. And by the way, that a lot of people said it wouldn't. Now the hope is that the blockade will force Iran to the table. But to this day, Iran is saying they're not even going to talk about the stuff.
Okay, or destabilize, or it would destabilize the regime and allow, because they're not going to be able to pay everybody off, allow some kind of more reasonable general to take over, or they'll fight among themselves and kill each other off. What I'm fascinated by, though, is at this juncture where I think you and I both agree that a strangled Iranian regime economically is a good thing for the United States, why there is not more of an America coming together to fight or to stand up to our enemy, a point, by the way, I would say you made when it came to Ukraine. Take a listen.
President Biden confirmed today that he is considering banning Russian oil imports. Would you support that, even though obviously it would damage the U.S. economy?
Yes, I would. Here in America, we got to be ready for the fact that will drive up oil prices, that will drive up gas prices. And if we are really standing with Ukraine, we have to be prepared to absorb that.
Why is it worth higher oil prices to stand with Ukraine and not worth higher oil prices to stand up to Iran that's chanted death to America for the past 47 years?
2 reasons. First of all, again, Russia attacked Ukraine. We weren't going to stop that.
I'm not dealing with the past. I'm dealing with what's happening right now.
Answer or not?
Yeah, but I want you to answer from where we are right now.
One of them, you won't even let me get through it. Okay? I mean, you can disagree with my answer, but give me more than 3 words to give it. Okay? Number one, again, Russia attacked Ukraine. That war was ongoing. We couldn't just stop it. Second, the big issue is, will all of that pain that you just described, and the pain is very real, and it is vastly greater, by the way, than what was going on with Ukraine. I mean, gas prices are up more. It's impacting fertilizer, impacting a whole bunch of different things. But second, and this is the key point that I was trying to get to in a note of somewhat agreement, is will this work? What is Iran going to agree to at the end of that 3 or 4 months that they're not willing to agree to now? My bet, the way I look at it, is they are not going to agree to what you think they're going to agree to, because they are religious nut jobs, religious extremists. All they care about is regime survival.
You're correct. You're correct about that they are that. You say though that
we don't accomplish. And the final point that I want to make that's really important: before we started this war, Iran was very weakened, and I supported Israel's 12-day war. I support their attacks on Hezbollah at great pain. I even supported their attacks, on Hamas and others. They had weakened that regime. And now we started this war that has solidified the control of the hardliners. That regime was under an enormous amount of economic pressure. Now we've sort of solidified them defending against us. So that's my quibble, is that we won't get the outcome that you think we will get after that 3 to 4 months of pain, whereas Ukraine's actually starting to win. They had a strategy. They had a plan to stop Russia. So that's the difference.
Well, 4 or 5 years later, a couple of points here. Number one, Putin's price hike extended to things far beyond gasoline, and inflation in the United States took off spectacularly in a way we hadn't seen since the 70s. But you seem to have this idea that the Iranians, before, say, February 28th, when the war was launched, everything was fine. And the Iranians weren't trying to do anything. The Iranians have made it their mission for 47 years to kill Americans. That's what you said. You said, we started this war.
I didn't say everything was fine. What the hell are you talking about? Okay? I said that this particular approach to dealing with the problem was wrong. You want to have a conversation about
what should we do now? So what should we do now?
With the problem? Well, no, you raised an issue about me thinking everything was fine. It wasn't. Okay, Iran is a major problem in the Middle East. It was a problem that needed to be confronted and contained. We were sanctioning them. We're undermining their proxies. We were doing a whole lot of things before we dove into the war.
Okay.
And I think made it worse. I don't think everything was fine. I think there was a better strategy for containing the threat than starting an all-out Middle East war that has left us in, I think, no better position than we were in when it started.
Well, right now we're certainly at a point of inflection. The president today was asked what would happen if the Iranians don't start negotiating. Take a listen.
We'll go a different route if everything gets to get signed up and buttoned up. We may go back to Project Freedom if things don't happen, but it's going to be Project Freedom Plus, meaning Project Freedom Plus other things.
So Project Freedom reopening the Strait of Hormuz to everybody but the Iranians by force. I know you have a lot of issues with that, Congressman. I don't have time for all of your issues, but I do have time. What would you do right now?
Yeah, I think you have to try to force the negotiation. I think we're in a very bad position right now. Okay, Iran is basically saying, pay us to open the strait. And we're not going to talk about nuclear weapons, but I talk about separate other things. I think we are in a very, very bad position. I'll tell you what I'd do. I would work with the other 50 nations now that are trying to negotiate to get the strait back open. I wouldn't keep shoving them away and saying,
so you negotiate with the terrorists.
Well, isn't Trump doing that? I mean, where do you come up with that? I mean, Trump is the one who's saying we should be negotiating with them. Why is he negotiating?
I don't answer for everything Donald Trump does. I don't answer for any of it. I'm asking you a question. Would you negotiate with Iran?
You think Trump is wrong, and you think we shouldn't be negotiating, we should just be launching out an all-out war?
It is confounding to me why President Trump continues to believe Iranian good words and not demand good actions. Yeah.
Okay, that's not an answer to the question. Do you think we should be negotiating with Iran or not?
Congressman, I don't have you on here to ask me questions. What I'm trying to ask you is,
when you
what
take
would
a
you
position that tries to make me look foolish?
I'm not taking any position, Congressman.
Yeah, no, but if you say, oh, how dare you negotiate with Iran, I have to ask, what's the strategy that doesn't involve negotiating with Iran?
I think it is what the CIA laid out, which is to keep the embargo going and try to strangle them to the point that they capitulate and unconditionally surrender.
I don't agree with that. I think the likelihood of that being successful is low and the cost is extraordinarily high.
Well, you're right that the cost is high, and there's a lot of Americans feeling it. Congressman Adam Smith on a Friday night, it's always a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Leland. I appreciate the chance to have the conversation.
Always a good one. We know how the U.S. government hid decades of pictures, even astronaut testimony about UFOs. Really?